Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We've got to Austin 99, Project 3. This is a proper live album. You remember the one we reviewed last week was actually Masque, which is a studio thing of bringing all the live stuff together to make an album kind of thing. And so it turns out really that Masque gives a full sense of how good Project 3 were in a sense. The leap from Project 2 to 3 is there, but it's not so pronounced. And that's because Masque is just fantastic. But that needs to, you need to hear this first before you hear Masque. That's the thing. This is the only full live one of this tour. Not the only full live Project 3, but it is sort of. More on that in about, I don't know, 10 episodes or something. Perhaps a bit more than that, ages. Here we go, 2003, I have to wait for that. So it's really good, probably lacks the urgency. There's an urgency to this. Pat Mastelotto has done a really good job of mixing together all that hours of recordings into something really cool. And maybe there was an urgency to Project 2 and that's gone, because it's replaced with something a bit less silly. But Masque obviously was a great idea and it's really good. This lacks focus. Partially maybe a Adrian Belew thing, and partially maybe Masque being such a good idea to put it all together like that and done so well. But there's no doubt, Pat Mastelotto brings something really important to it, to the projects, and the ones without Pat Mastelotto aren't there yet. It's Project 3 and 4 you need, and X. So this is definitely the next step of King Crimson still, It's odd how, essentially the same thing. I mean, some of the stuff on here are the actual same performances that are on Masque. So how things can be presented differently have a hugely different effect. So track 1 is Masque 3, which we've talked about, but it's 15 minutes of Masque 3. It's the house rhythm, it's the usual soundscapes and Fripp soloing, and some synth piano stuff. Pat Mastelotto plays this fantastic stuff, and it kind of goes into sustains at the end, I think. And there's this nice natural slow ending of the build down. It takes 15 minutes to do that. So that's great to hear, which wasn't on the album. It's clear Pat doesn't want to stop. It's part of the thing as well. Interesting how you can compare that to Project 1, where the raw recordings were better than the mixed album. And with Project 3 it's probably the other way around. Track 2 is Masque 11. It's the slow sort of Deception of the Thrush part 1 thing. Track 3 is X-chayn-jiZ. Slower and heavier X-chayn-jiZ compared to Project 2. Yeah. And there's some quite silly piano fast picking stuff. Track 4 is Fizz. Distorted noise, proper stuff with this traditional Indian sounding percussion, and then into some evil stuff, and then it sort of gets going after that with something slightly more sensible. Really good. Project 4 did that one as well. That's a highlight. Track 5 is Heavy ConstruKction, Obligatory. Oh yes, and this is getting really good. And of course, Heavy ConstruKction needs to be heavy, and it is here. And again, we're going to hear more of that. Track 6, Introductory Soundscape, a yearning soundscape, that kind of one. Track 7 is Masque 8. So the yearning soundscapes go into evil soundscapes. I've mentioned this before, there's almost a Tom Waitsness to some of this, and that it's a seediness that Project 4 doesn't have, so that's cool. And you've got the electric pots and pans, so kind of Tom Waits pots and pans, but it's electric version. That's another highlight, that one. Track 8 is Light Construction, and of course, really light. So the juxtaposition is greater with Project 3 and Project 2. The difference between light and heavy construction is huge. Track 9 is Masque 2. It's Tom Waits again, as I said last week. Track 10 is CCCCCCs, or C's. Don't know how to pronounce it. Evil percussion type thing, chugging, type stuff. I hadn't noticed this before, but I think, isn't that a precursor to Dangerous Curves? The rhythm isn't quite the same, but I think maybe that's where it came from. Track 11 is ProjeKction. Of course, the intro to Frying Pan. Of course, way better than Into the Frying Pan. It's the raw form of it, and it's so brutal and fun. Great bit of projects. Track 12 is The Deception of the Thrush. And what else would Project 3 are going to close with? Obviously, it's going to be Deception of the Thrush. I tend to prefer the Project 3 versions in the double duo touring. Don't know why, that's just the way it is. Is it the best King Crimson song ever? It might be. Maybe. See you next week.